This program is brought to you by the partners of A Rood Awakening International. Help others find truth. Support A Rood Awakening International today.
Are the fantastic stories of the Bible really true? The Red Sea crossing, God giving the Ten Commandments of Mount Sinai, the hiding of the Ark of the Covenant. What if there was scientific evidence to prove these things? And what if new evidence had recently come to light? Would you want to see it? Well, you're going to tonight because it's the end of the sixth day. The sun is set, and this is Shabbat Night Live.
As they take this message out into the world.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Torah fans. Welcome to Shabbat Night Live with Michael Rood. Yes, we are back in the Shabbat Night Live studio for a very special and very important episode for several reasons. We'll get into that in just a second. It's with Kevin Fisher this round in just a few minutes with his new discoveries about Mount Sinai, the Ark of the Covenant, and more. It's an exciting new series starting tonight. But first, Sukkot has officially begun, and we see that on the astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. There you see it on your screen there. And this, if you've watched Michael Rood for any length of time, you know this, that it's Yeshua's true birthday. Yes, we know that without a doubt for several reasons outlined in the chronological Gospels Bible. And let's talk more about that and give you a very important announcement on another front from my co-host, the Chief Operating Officer of Rood Awakening International, Ted Clayton.
Hey, Scott.
How are you?
Hey, I'm wonderful. We can do
Oh, yeah, we can do this. We can social distance here, but we can still do that. Yeah, so
right.
As Michael often talks about, it is Yeshua's birthday, the first day
Yes.
of Sukkot. And a lot of people say, well, how do we know that? But he's laid it all out in the chronological. To try and explain it here is like, well, forget it. But he's got it all there, and you line up the biblical records, the Roman records, how we can now, with technology these days, rewind what was happening in the skies at that time. It is indisputable. I think Michael says to within a millionth of a minute or something. It's an astronomical number that it has to be when Yeshua was born.
Absolutely.
And that's where we are. We're at Sukkot, so
Yes.
here we are. And now speaking of fall feasts, last week we had Yom Teruah. We had Yom Teruah happening. And of course, we had an encore presentation of Yom Teruah because we wanted the feel of having a crowd out here, but we couldn't do that. And so we basically had an encore presentation.
We did, Scott, and there was a very good reason for that. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know that Michael Rood absolutely loves each and every one of you. Some time back, Michael shared with you that he had had a stroke. And Michael would have loved to have been here for Yom Teruah and had an audience here in the building and so forth and done a big Yom Teruah event. But unfortunately, several weeks back, Michael has had another stroke. And he had to go into the hospital and he had to do a couple of weeks of rehab. But now he's home with his wife, Anna Lil.
Yes, he is.
And he is moving toward a full recovery.
Yes, we even had, I was sent a picture of him blowing a shofar on Yom Teruah.
On Yom Teruah.
And his mind is sharp as a tack.
Sharp as a tack. Listen, let me tell you, we were funny thing, we were discussing, I'm from New Orleans originally, and we were part of the Hurricane Katrina evacuation, and my wife and I were talking to him, talking about my daughter being 7 years old at the time.
Okay.
And he comes back and just fires back at me, and she's 22 now. And she is. She's 22 now. So, ladies and gentlemen, Michael is on a full road to recovery. He is getting stronger and stronger every day. And just before his stroke, he had been in the studio and he had worked on Shabbat Night Lives, taping those and taping a ton of love gifts. So he wanted me to say to you, rest assured, while he is recovering at home, you have plenty of SNLs to watch and plenty of love gifts that are going to be coming that are brand new, that are becoming while he's taking a siesta a little bit, working hard and recovering back from this stroke.
And if we know Michael, he needs a little bit of a siesta.
The man goes constantly. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible.
And the one thing about having a crowd here for Yom Teruah, the reason why Michael loves crowds so much is because if you ever ever been in a crowd when Michael is teaching, you know that even if he came in tired that day for whatever reason, he gets a charge out of having a crowd in front of him. So
Absolutely.
that, I think, is maybe, Ted, correct me if I'm wrong, this is maybe one way that we can help get Michael that charge back by being that audience to him through maybe email and videos. Can we send him something to encourage him?
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to help Michael right now, the best thing you could do is take out that iPhone or take out that Android phone, that Samsung or whatever, and record a video for Michael. He would absolutely love to hear from you and feel your love right now. He would love to hear that. So if you have the time and could take out just a moment of your time to record this, and by the way, if you have a face like mine and don't like being on video, just do an email. Just email Michael and tell him how much you love him and how much you're really looking forward to his quick and speedy recovery. And you can send those emails and videos to bestwishes@michaelrood.tv.
Okay, yeah, that'll be, Michael would absolutely love that. I know.
Oh, I know he would.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't we all? I mean, if you're home in the, or recovering, don't you like to know that your friends are praying for you and thinking about you?
Indeed, and even from just a physical standpoint, you've probably seen this because you've been in the medical field, and I'm from the natural health end of things, and we both know that if someone gets cancer, for example, and they say, oh, this is going to do me and I'm done, well, guess what? Yep, they're done.
Yeah, they're done.
But those folks who believe that they're going to get well, and they believe that they're going to get better, they don't even have to be a believer. Yehovah has built that into every human being, that hope is there. And if you believe hard,
that's right,
you will get better.
Absolutely.
And if you have that encouragement, you will get better. So if you want to help Michael recover quickly, and recover even quicker than he's going to anyway.
He's going to recover. No doubt about that.
So send those to Michael. Let's use that healing power that is built into him from Yehovah to help him, encourage him, and bring up that part of his health, not even his physical health, but just his emotional health, and get him recharged. And we know that's going to help him a lot. Now, in the meantime, okay, so Michael did record a lot. I mean, we just did a tally a little while ago from our production crew, and they said that, we've done literally more than 2 times the amount of video production that we did last year, this year, in the midst of a pandemic where everybody's at home. Right. And so we have a ton of stuff other than Michael's. I mean, what else is on the slate here? Well,
also, speaking of friends, we also have wonderful friends of Michael like Bill Cloud, Kevin Fisher, Miles Jones, Nehemiah Gordon, just to name a few. And also, our good friends here, Scott Laird and David Robinson, are also going to do some SNLs. So friends, we have SNLs like you have never before seen, and they're going to be absolutely fantastic. And we look forward to seeing not only Michael's SNLs, but SNLs from these great men of God.
In fact, tonight is our first episode of one of those, and that's with Kevin Fisher. I could not believe the video. And we've all seen video of the Red Sea crossing and things like this, and we know that Michael originally did that video.
Yes.
I am kind of quasi calling this the sequel to the Red Sea crossing, because there's video here that you've probably seen before. Oh yeah, there's the chariot part on the bottom of the Red Sea.
Sure.
There's the melted beach where God rained down fire and separated the Egyptians from the Israelites. And it's all very real. Not to discount that.
Oh, yes.
But there's some stuff that Kevin has that no one has seen. I mean, he has interviews with Ron Wyatt's sons, one of which has passed away now.
Yeah.
These interviews are gold. No one else in the world has this detail of information that he has about Ron Wyatt's discoveries, and you're going to be absolutely floored.
Wonderful, Scott. And you know what? Just keep in prayer for the ministry folks, keep in prayer for Michael, and keep in prayer for this guy, because he's going to have to be doing some teaching soon too.
Love it. Well, thanks very much, Ted.
Thank you, Scott.
Today. All right, well, stay encouraged. And in fact, are the fantastic stories of the Bible really true? Well, what if there was a scientific evidence to prove that? And what if there was new evidence that had recently come to light? Would you want to see it? I do. And guess what? We're both going to see it coming up next. Kevin Fisher.
It's no secret that 2020 has become the most unpredictable and the most disturbing year in recent memory. But the question is, what is our role as believers? Michael Rood welcomes Bill Cloud for The End Is Not Yet, a special edition love gift teaching about what is going on in our world and what you can do about it.
In a very short time, we are going to have to be making certain decisions that are going to affect the outcome not only of this nation, but of this world. And so as the servants of the Almighty, it is very important that we seek His will.
The End Is Not Yet is an exclusive teaching you won't see anywhere. The only way to get it is to receive it as our gift, to thank you for your support. Donate a $50 love gift, and we'll send you The End Is Not Yet on DVD or Blu-ray. Or for a donation of $100, we'll send you the teaching, plus a tall latte coffee mug inscribed with the Hebrew name of Yehovah, and Michael Rood's new Apostles' Creed, printed on a cozy 5-foot microfleece blanket. Or as a special offer for a donation of $300, we'll send you The End Is Not Yet, the latte coffee mug with the Hebrew name of God, the new Apostles' Creed blanket, plus a canvas print depicting ancient worshipers going up to Jerusalem for the fall feasts. These gifts are available only in October, and supplies are limited. Make your donation now and receive the $50 gift, the $100 gift, or the $300 gift. Remember, this offer ends October 31st, and supplies are limited. Thank you for your donation to A Rood Awakening International. Call now to receive your gifts, 888-766-3610, or get your gifts online at monthlylovegift.com.
When Yeshua fed the 5,000 with leavened barley loaves in the Galilee, the Pharisees came down on him because they accused him that he and his disciples did not wash their hands before they ate bread. They did not wash their hands with a negelvesser and say this prayer, "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us by your commandments, commanding us concerning the washing of hands." Why didn't Yeshua do that? Why didn't his disciples follow that? Because it is takanot. It is a law which they invented, and Moses said no one is ever allowed to add to or subtract from. But the night of the Last Supper, Yeshua took bread and he put in place a rehearsal that was really put in place by the Kohen Gadol, the high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Melchizedek himself brought forth bread and wine to Abraham. And Yeshua interpreted that very thing. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem mi'aretz. This is what Yeshua put in place, that before we eat bread, that we say this prayer. And as often as we do this, we do it in remembrance of him, because his broken body was broken for us, and by his stripes we were healed. So as often as we do this, as often we do it in remembrance of him. And Yeshua took the cup and he said, Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei pri hagafen. The creator of the fruit of the vine, Yehovah, created the fruit of the vine. He said, this represents the renewed covenant in my blood. As often as you do this, remember me. And remember, I will be drinking this with you at the marriage supper of the Lamb. Shabbat Shalom.
Find 5 Westerners tonight who were kidnapped earlier today by Kurdish rebels.
Amateur archaeologist believes he's found the ruins of Noah's Ark.
I would stake my life on the fact that I know where the Ark of the Covenant is.
When most people think of Indiana Jones, they think of fame and fortune when looking for something ancient, hoping to become famous by finding some ancient relic that no one has ever found before. Well, not everyone wants the fame and fortune that goes along with revealing not necessarily even ancient myths, but truths rather. And a lot of the truth of the Bible does not come out. It's more fun to think of myths in that kind of terms. But actually, when you get into it, the Bible is quite interesting when you look into the history of it. And one person is trying to bring out that truth, and that is our guest today, Kevin Fisher. Kevin, welcome to Shabbat Night Live.
It's nice to be here. Thank you.
You know, you were here a few years ago, and you have some new information that you want to share with us. And you research basically the truth of the Bible as far as one guy who's probably the most famous for, speaking of fame and fortune, for revealing the truth of the Bible, and that archaeology actually proves the Bible.
Yes.
And that guy is Ron Wyatt.
That's right.
And you met Ron in what, 1984?
1984, I was at a church in Nashville. He was doing a presentation on the discoveries. At that point, he had discovered 4 major sites: the Noah's Ark site. He had discovered the Red Sea crossing. He knew Mount Sinai was over in Saudi Arabia. A couple of years before, he had found the Ark of the Covenant. And so he was doing this presentation at a church there in Nashville, and it literally changed my life. I mean, seeing this evidence right there, proving the Bible, and I shook his hand. I thought to myself, I'd like to help him, in some way. And so, after his death, I wanted to start documenting these sites that he had found so others could see it, new video and so forth. And so in this program, we're going to be taking a look at some new evidence or these new sites. At least a lot of people, they've not seen them before.
Right.
But Ron Wyatt, found the Red Sea crossing site and the real Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia. And so I've got, video footage of that for folks to see. It's really incredible.
Some people say, oh, come on. One guy found the Ark of the Covenant, the Red Sea crossing, this and that. This has all got to be just some big scam that he put on.
Well,
so how do you defend that?
If you say that, you're saying that miracles don't happen. You're saying that God is not in control. But by having one man finding all these things, plus he found Sodom and Gomorrah in 1989, you're seeing that God was leading one man to find all these major discoveries, because one man could not have found them. But the evidence is showing they are real. This is truth. And God is bringing them out at the end of time for folks to see, because these are all signs of God's judgment. What happened at Sodom and Gomorrah? He destroyed the wicked. He saved the righteous. What happened at the flood? Noah's Ark proves the flood, that he had to destroy the wicked, but he saved the righteous. Even at the Red Sea crossing, what happened? He killed the wicked Egyptians, saved his people through the waters. And the Ark of the Covenant at Mount Sinai, the God's law. This is all about judgments in the past, because Christ is getting ready to return. And this is a wake-up call to mankind. Hey, look, I judged people in the past. I'm getting ready to judge you. And so God is bringing these things out at just the right time. He's preserved them. God has protected these. And so these discoveries are very incredible. God did use one man. Yes.
And you think about that, and if you think about the way the Bible's orchestrated, the way you give all the examples in the Bible of judgment, a lot of the stories we hear in the Bible are also by one man. So Yeshua, Jesus, came to save the whole world by one man, who was also God, of course. But he also used one man, an unwilling man, Moses, to bring the whole Israelites across. And it's funny, I know that we're going to bring up here that, this story of Ron Wyatt that you are so passionate about and bringing the truth about becomes more real to people when you see the miracles that happened in his own life. Like, for example, I said we're going to bring up that he took a flight one time to find the path of the Israelites, and the pilot's name was
Moses. Moses is showing him where the route was to come out to the beach. I mean, that's amazing. So God, lines things up, helping people along the way. I believe God is still in control. He's still intervening in people's lives.
So you met Ron in 1984, and you started this after his death, which was 1989? 1999, I'm sorry, yeah. So you started at that point to help get the word out. Was his family involved? Who was involved? Why did you feel you needed to be involved?
Yeah, well, his sons were involved in the early excavations, and so we're going to have some video of them here in the Red Sea crossing part. But yeah, they were helping him out, and then when Ron passed away, there was a need to others to assist in getting the word out, and that's all I've done. I haven't found anything. I've just helping to document what he found, and God wants this information to get out, but at the same time, Satan does not, and so there's this negativity that's not founded on fact. It's founded on hate, but God's truth will prevail.
And that's what your film shows here. You say you haven't found anything, but I have to give you some credit that I know you won't give yourself, but you've gone to great expense and great time to put together some information here. You said you're not even sure you're going to release what we're going to show here as a film.
Well, I just want to get the word out, and this is a good platform to do that, so I'm glad to share it. Yeah.
Well, so now you have put all of this together, and obviously, like I said, you've gone to great expense and great time. So is this something you do? Are you working, retired?
Well, I do this part-time. I'm retired from the state of Tennessee where I worked for 30 years. But I work with the Discoveries, part-time, trying to get the word out. And it's a pleasure to be able to work with them.
Well, I want to make sure that people help you continue to get the word out. So if you would, before we even start here, where can people donate to what you are doing? What's the website?
Well, the website's arcdiscovery.com. Okay. They can check it out there.
Okay, and people can just make a tax-deductible donation, that type of thing?
They can make a donation.
Okay, lovely. All right, great. So we're going to get started here with the film that is not a film, I guess, per se yet. This is actually a rough cut of something you've put together. We're going to treat this like a slideshow. We're going to go through here. Kevin has shown me part of the film here, and so what we're going to do is go through it, and we're going to stop at certain points, just like a slideshow, talk about it. You have some very interesting points to bring up. This film is not narrated necessarily all the way through, other than what comes from you. So we want to depend on you and what you have to say about it.
Sure, I'll try to narrate, yes.
Yeah, and forgive me if I stop you a few times, because I'm sure just like our audience, we're going to say, wait a minute, stop, what is that? Because there's some things probably that we have not seen that you've seen 1,000 times that I'm sure people would be very interested in.
Yes,
so.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, we'll get started with the intro here.
Very good, okay. Now what are we seeing here on the screen?
This is the Red Sea crossing spot in Egypt.
And that is going to be our focus today, is the Red Sea crossing.
Yes, this is the Pillar of Solomon erected. This is the beach there. This is Nuweiba, Egypt. This is Elam. We'll be going over to that side in Saudi Arabia in the next program.
So Elam still exists after all these years. Wow, with the 70 palm trees and the 70 wells.
That's right, and there's a blackened peak of Mount Sinai.
Amazing.
And Mount Sinai was on the right there. Here's the altar at the base of the mountain. These are in the next programs.
Yes, we're going to be doing more than one here, probably at least a few here.
Yes. And there's Mount Sinai in the background.
And it's just what you'd expect to see in the desert.
That's
a bunch of camels crossing the road.
Yes, and then the split rock of Moses.
Now, there are 2 rocks that we're going to be talking about in this series, and I'm not sure a lot of people know exist.
Yes, this is the first one.
That is a huge rock. That is, we've seen that from Jim and Penny Caldwell. And
yes, it's like 50 feet tall.
And this is the...
This is the golden calf altar.
Yes.
The golden calf would have been placed on top of this.
Incredible. So this is drone footage that you captured?
Yes.
And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew, and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the whole age of Jacob was 147 years.
Okay, we're starting out in Cairo. We're going to take a look at a site just south of Cairo associated with Joseph. It's the step pyramid at Saqqara.
And that's what we saw there with the narrator?
Yes.
Okay.
It was in the background there with the narrator. This is some of the city streets there, the old world and then the new world together. The guy's threatening to throw a shoe at me there, but so as it goes in that part of the world. And so from the hotel rooftop, you can look south and see Giza there, the giant pyramids.
And you're telling me that these are not the primary focus. Everybody sees this picture, but the primary focus
these are the big boys that people like to look at, but the original first pyramid is at Saqqara. We're heading south to that spot. As we're heading south, we can see out through the taxi here.
That is just bizarre to me that people see that every day as part of their backdrop.
Yes, the rectangular pyramids in front of them. And so here's the bent pyramid. They had to change the angle of it. So this is at Saqqara, where Imhotep or Joseph built the first pyramid. It was originally covered in smooth block, but near the pyramid is the Imhotep Museum. That would be for Joseph. And inside the museum, there's a carving of these people starving. This would have been the 7-year famine.
On a granite boulder above the Nile's first cataract, the formidable rapids at Aswan, a sculptor who lived much later chiseled out in hieroglyphs the story of how Imhotep had even saved his country from famine. The annual Nile flood, which inundated surrounding fields every autumn before farmers sowed their seed, failed 7 years in a row. Zoser asked Imhotep where the source of the river lay. The pharaoh intended to travel there to interrogate the river gods and beg them to show mercy on his people. But Imhotep replied that sacred books had given him the answer. The floods returned, and the famine was over. In about 1200 BC, fully 1400 years after his death, Imhotep, the genius architect of Zoser's reign, was deified by the Egyptians, who built cult temples to honor him.
So let's just stop it there for a second. I have a question for you. So the narrator showed us that excerpt from National Geographic in 1995. Where did that story come from? Is that from Egyptian records?
It came from this giant boulder there in the Nile River, where inscription was made telling about the Imhotep. He had been deified by this point. It was, hundreds of years after Joseph. They viewed him as a god. And they said that he saved their country from a 7-year famine. Of course, that fits the biblical story of Joseph saving his country.
So they're specific about the 7 years?
Yes, that's what's really interesting.
Wow.
7-year famine, matching what the Bible says. So, and if we can see here in the video, we'll see the large boulder here with this carving inscription on it. So we're connecting Joseph with Imhotep. And in Israel, at the Israel Museum, is this carving of Imhotep. It states here he was the architect of the step pyramid at Saqqara. And in the center there is Imhotep.
Do the Egyptians say that he came from somewhere other than Earth? Did they think he's some kind of miracle? Or
I don't know. They could probably view it that way. But he was a real man that God was using. Yes.
It's strange that they deify him.
That's right. View him as a god. And so we're pulling up to the Saqqara area. You can see the step pyramid there. In the distance is the entry hall that we're going to go through. There's just one entry. And this is where people would come to buy grain, from the area nations. Some people say this looks like a corn cob with the kernels of corn on it. And you're going down this central hallway as you enter.
And this is where people would have filed through to get their grain?
Yeah, to purchase their grain. This is what Mr. Wyatt thought. And there's alcoves left and right as you go down this center hallway. And so there could be vendors there selling the grain for the Egyptian government, and they would speak various languages probably. You have people coming from various countries.
So this is what Ron Wyatt says. What do the Egyptians say about this?
I'm not sure what they say of this particular hall here, but they don't recognize Joseph as associated with it. But so we're out back from that central hallway there, and we see the step pyramid.
Was it a step always? You said there were smooth stones.
No, we'll see some stones where there were limestone covering this. We'll see that shortly down at the base. We'll see some limestone blocks. But there at the site, you see these vertical underground grain silos. This is where the grain would have been stored. And Mr. Wyatt thought that there were a series of these And that would be a perfect way to store grain, for 7 years, would be underground. It's cooler and so forth, and this would have been covered, of course.
Mm-hmm. Constant temperature down below?
Yeah, it'd be right, cooler, steady temperature. And then there was a central exit point. These vertical silos would exit at the bottom of this point here, and the grain would be brought up these steps. There'd be sacks of grain.
It's interesting. If not that story, what would this be for? It seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, the vertical silos, they call them, tombs, everything they call a tomb, But,
pretty big tomb.
Yeah, and it's, a vertical tomb.
Oh, look at this.
At Thebes, there's an image of men carrying grain upstairs, at Thebes, which fits what's going on here.
Now, that location that you just mentioned, is that close to here?
I'm not sure of the location. I don't know.
But still, where would that come from?
So, yeah.
Seems to fit.
Yeah. So we're looking around here, the step pyramid. It's not, a huge pyramid, but it's significant that it's the first and a biblical character, constructed it. Here we can see some block at the bottom. Could be limestone, where they had a smooth veneer. People came along later and basically, stole this veneer material and made it look like a step pyramid. So in another part of Egypt, there's images of these Hyksos or Semites, the foreigners in the lighter skin here. This would be the children of Israel. Now they're back here at Saqqara. We're going inside a tomb spot that these gentlemen opened up for us. And we're going to see something interesting here in a moment. Here we see the Apis bull. That's good.
Oh, look at that.
The Apis bull. Now we're going to go over to Saudi Arabia in our next program, and we'll see the Apis bull carved there in Saudi Arabia. So these gods, images, were taken over to Saudi Arabia by the children of Israel. Now there's two traditional crossing spots. There's point A that's right next to Egypt, and there's point B. That's a distant site we're going to take a look at that Ron Wyatt thought is the correct biblical Red Sea crossing location.
Now let me stop you there, and let's just conclude our first half here on this topic. So Ron, I know, was very adamant about proving that, if it was a miracle, it had to be a miracle. It couldn't just be something that they couldn't wade across the Red Sea. He didn't see that as plausible because that wouldn't be God.
And you couldn't drown people in ankle-deep water or 6-foot deep water. You're talking hundreds of thousands of Egyptian soldiers, all killed. So it had to be a deep location. The Bible does describe the crossing location as the great deep, or the depths of the sea. Has to be a very deep body of water, and those locations close to Egypt, they're too close to start with, and then they're not deep enough. So we'll be seeing evidence of that.
Well, and like you said, you can't drown an entire army chasing. I had to imagine, like you said, hundreds of thousands. It had to be tons of soldiers chasing what could have been 3 to 4 million people leaving Egypt. You're not going to capture them all with 100 soldiers. Right. You're going to have your entire country's army coming after them, and there's got to be something significant to wipe out, as the Bible says, every last one of them.
And the Bible says all the chariots of Egypt. So we're talking, a lot of horses, a lot of chariots, a lot of soldiers on foot and in chariots and so forth. So this was a big deal to destroy all of them. Egypt took a big hit at that point.
We're going to see some evidence, I think, that I have never seen before of what happened to those soldiers, what happened to those chariots in a little bit later on. But right now, we're going to take a short break here. Thank you for supporting Shabbat Night Live. It allows us to bring people like Kevin on stage here with us and for you to enjoy and to see some things you've never seen before. So we thank you for supporting A Rood Awakening International. We'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And welcome back. You know, when you're looking to solve a mystery, you go by the clues. You don't go off in left field looking for something that isn't there and hoping to find the answer that you're looking for. And Kevin Fisher, we have some obvious clues from the Bible about where to find the crossing site of the Red Sea crossing. Before the break, we were talking about there's two potential sites. And one of them, I understand, is has a lot more evidence to it than the other. Let's compare those two.
Yeah, that site B, the distant location. Mm-hmm. We're going to see that as we start the video here, that they traveled several days to a distant location. They were out of Egypt at the crossing beach, and mountains obstructed their travel. And that's what we're going to see in the video.
And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt?
So they were out of Egypt at the crossing spot. Point A, they would not be out of Egypt. They would still be in Egypt. B is a distant out of Egypt location.
God led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, Lest peradventure the people repent when they see war, and they return to Egypt.
The route they took up here at the top of the screen is they would not have gone the way of the Philistines.
And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom.
Now in this verse it describes Eloth, or modern-day Elat, as on the Red Sea. It's marked here at the southern tip of Israel. That's termed the Yam Suf in Hebrew. That is the body of water that would be the crossing spot, is the Yam Suf. And in Exodus 13 mentions that. We're now here at Elat, southern tip of Israel. It's a Saturday evening, Sabbath evening, and we can see Jordan over here on the left.
That's still a very popular vacation spot.
It is. It is a vacation area, yes. Beautiful, clear water there. So they would have left Ramses. They would have come together real quickly at Sukkot. That was their first stop. They got into ranks, and they're heading over to the White Dot is their destination. They have to cross the Sinai Peninsula. This is about a 7-day journey, according to Josephus. Now, we're starting out from the Cairo area here, and we're going to go under the Suez Canal. This is over a mile in length. It's kind of amazing, a tunnel going underneath at that distance. I've shortened the video here as we go through the tunnel. But the hotel owner at Nuweiba, where we're headed, he was nice enough to pick me up at the hotel in Cairo and driving us across the Sinai Peninsula. Since then, the Sinai has had some ISIS trouble there. There's a lot of military now in the Sinai and not many tourists. So we're coming out the other side. We've shortened the length of it here, but so we're leaving Africa and we're now entering Asia.
Now, this was not the route of the
This isn't the exact route right here, but this is the route we're taking. We're heading east. We're going across the Sinai now. And as we're traveling, you can see that it is relatively flat, which would help them in their escape, their speed. Amen. A lot of level areas that we'll see along the way.
And truly wilderness where they thought they would have died. There's not much out there.
Yes. And so this is the approximate route they would have taken across here, and then they would have turned south and then go through the mountains, the dark brown area. So that's kind of the route we're going to be taking.
Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself.
So eagle's wings, God was giving them the strength, the power, the speed to travel. Of course, they're fleeing for their lives, basically, you know. This is an opportunity they've waited for a couple hundred years as Egyptian slaves and so forth. So again, we can see how level it is as we're traveling across. After the Passover, children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. High hand, they were given strength, power. They were going out with force as they were escaping.
And that would indicate maybe that the speed at which they were going. And
yes, and God assisting them. Again, this is another verse here, mount up with wings as eagles. And that's what God did for them. This was a 7-day fleeing for their life, golden opportunity, to get out of Dodge. And here we're heading south, if we remember the route. Mm-hmm. And again, very flat. And then we're going to enter this wadi up at the top left. We're going to wind our way through this canyon as we're traveling through the Wadi Watur, it's called. And it's rather wide at this point.
But it would make sense that after several days, when Pharaoh finally realized that they're not coming back, and then said that they were entangled in the wilderness, that they would have had to get that point to get to here, where they are up against the mountains and having to go through the wadi and had no escape.
Yes, I'm sure that people were becoming upset or depressed at this point. What are we doing going through these mountains? And we're becoming more and more probably upset, because this is going to become more and more narrow. You can see here, it's already becoming narrow. You got 3 million people or so, and I imagine they had to pick up their speed, even though by this point, they're tired. But going through these narrow areas, you got to go faster.
Now a wadi is basically a dried out riverbed.
He, Pharaoh, was delighted with the blunder they were making respecting their line of march, thinking that now they were hemmed in, having no way of escape whatever.
So Pharaoh was saying, they were hemmed in, no way of escape, and that's what we have here. Narrow route through these mountains that were enclosing them.
Does water ever come through this area anymore?
It does wash out, yes. There is
really?
Water, yes.
So they continue to have to build this road, which is why it looks maybe so new.
Right, yeah. They have to grade it occasionally. And so, again, this is a narrow spot here.
Yeah, that would definitely slow them down.
They are entangled in the land. The wilderness hath shut them in.
So they were entangled, they were shut in, and that's what we have. And we're going to see how steep some of these mountains are. Very steep. I mean, how do you get over that? You can't.
Yeah, there literally is no escape. That's like traveling through the Rockies.
Right.
For there was on each side a ridge of mountains that terminated at the sea, which were impassable by reason of their roughness, and obstructed their flight.
So this is recorded by many people, Josephus, Philo, the Bible.
And the Bible, they all mention them being entangled, and that fits in with the biblical account.
So
what happened here.
This is not just, believing by faith. This is secular historians.
That's right.
Saying these
confirm what the Bible's saying, confirm the site. So we're getting near the end of the wadi. The mountains are ending right up in front of us here, heading toward the Red Sea or Gulf of Aqaba.
And that would explain the large beach. If the water was rushing through here, it'd bring lots of sediment, and over the years creating that beach.
So there you can see the beach. It could too during the flood. The water would have washed out through here and pushed the sand out. So in the distance, we're standing at the mouth of the canyon there, and we can see the Gulf of Aqaba in the distance. There's the route we came through, but this beach is 5 miles long, 3 miles wide.
Look at that, in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, 5 miles by 3 miles, and it juts out into the Gulf of Aqaba.
And that would create what we're going to get into, I'm sure, is the underwater land bridge.
Having accomplished together a long and desolate journey through the wilderness, destitute of any beaten road, at last arrived at the sea, which is called the Red Sea.
So he mentions a long and desolate journey. That excludes any nearby crossing site.
Speak unto the children of Israel, that they turn and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon. Before it shall ye encamp by the sea.
So Pihahiroth means mouth of the hole or canyon in Hebrew. This is the mouth of the hole or canyon right here where the mountains terminated at this beach. So that is biblical Pihahiroth right at that point. That's where we came out of the mountains through the wadi.
As if it was yesterday.
Yes, so Ron's sons are going to talk about going to the crossing site here.
Yes, we did. Some research. We did do that. He was interested in trying to find the site because scientists always kept trying to say that they crossed in the Sea of Reeds, which was ankle deep at a certain time of year and stuff. And Dad wanted to prove that it was a biblical miracle. Mm-hmm. And so he tried to trace their steps from Egypt. And basically he did. He got an airplane, and he had this guy named Moses, actually. Yeah. This is no lie. We hired a pilot in Eilat, and his name was Moses, and he flew us up and down through there, and Dad told him what we're looking for. We're looking for a valley that goes all the way through the mountains from here, from the Sinai Peninsula to here. And the guy said, oh yeah, there is one. And back then there wasn't a road even down it, but now they have a road down there.
All the way through now.
It keeps washing out all the time. But anyway, we found that, and it was perfect description of what the Bible said, is they wandered through the valley and got turned. They couldn't get out. The Egyptian army was behind them, and they couldn't turn around to get away, and they couldn't climb up over the mountains to get away. And basically they had to keep going towards the Red Sea, and they were cut off. And so we pretty much knew that that's where it had to be.
Now I want to stop you here just for a second, because this footage is very special, because what Ron said people can dispute or not, whatever, but his son now is saying the same thing. And again, now this is very special footage because Ronnie, who was just speaking, you've told me has passed.
That's true, yes, that's sad. Yes, this was about 4 or 5 years ago. But yeah, so they're describing being with their father. They're, in this airplane that Mr. Wyatt rented against spending his money, on these discoveries. And the pilot named Moses is showing them the route through the mountains. And so, of course, they immediately went down to this beach after having flown on that airplane. So that was a great lead that they were given.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, and here again, we have a second testimony.
That's right, with his sons.
And so fortunate that you captured that before he passed on.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
So here we are at our guide's house there at Nuweiba, and he's going to offer up some tea for us. Faraj is his name.
And this is a very cultural thing, is hospitality in this
yes.
area.
In Turkey, Egypt, this is traditional chai tea.
And regardless of who you are, come be my guest.
That's right. Is that not the mantra? They're very welcoming, very nice. And so Andrew's here, taking up some of the tea, and his father on the right. So now we're driving through Nuweiba. It's a poverty-stricken area, very few tourists nowadays.
Is this another war-torn area or just desolate?
Well, because of the ISIS, they had to shut down a lot of the Sinai, and the military is all over the place.
And again, camels just everywhere.
That's true. And so here we're at a fortress, Migdal, we saw in the previous text, was supposed to be near the crossing site. Now this may be a more modern fort or fortress. There could have been a more ancient one at the same location, back 3,500 years ago. But some people say this is a more modern fort. But there's a nice well in the center of this. This well could be, 3,000 years old. There could have been a fort here before. But so this area could be, where the biblical Migdal was. Some people say Migdal could be up on top of the mountains, something up on top of the mountains looking down. But we're not exactly sure. But this is an interesting spot here. And we went over and took a look down inside the well.
Is this, to your knowledge, still a functioning well at this time?
I don't know. It does have a modern, pipe going down into it, so I imagine they are drawing some water out of it with the kids ready to fall in. So there is the beach there at Nueva, and this is a sunrise.
I know there's something very interesting at this beach that you're going to show in a minute. Not all of it is sand.
That's right. We'll see possible evidence of it having been melted. So here we are, another view looking down to the south, Saudi Arabia on the other side. Sometimes you visit here, you cannot see across. You can't even see the mountains. But this was a good day. You could see across. And then we're panning toward the north, up toward Israel. And in the distance on the right would be Jordan.
And there again are the mountains that would make it impassable on the north.
Yes, on the Sinai side. And so now we're looking over toward the pillar that marked the crossing location.
Well, the first day you went down to the beach, tell us what you saw.
We found the column laying there. I think Danny's the one who noticed that.
Column. It was laying on the beach.
Well, later.
That's pretty much all we saw. But that's why Dad thought that could be the spot, because he remembered reading that Solomon put up a pillar on either side.
Yeah.
And he had looked at some of the whatever those maps are, underwater maps, and he found that the smooth place all the way across, and that the wadi was right there that went all the way through. Because everywhere else in the Red Sea, there's coral just, everywhere. There's no flat place at all. It goes down and drops off real sharp.
So now we're driving over toward the column. So in 78, Ron Wyatt showed this to the Israeli army that was occupying the Sinai Peninsula. And they kindly pulled it back from the water, having been laying down in the water, and pulled it back several hundred yards to this spot and set it up in concrete. So it's very nice that they did that, and today it's still standing. Of course, this would have been put up 3,000 years ago initially down by the water, but it had ancient inscriptions on the matching column over in Saudi Arabia.
And one of them, I understand, is very hard to read. One's worn more than the other, is that right?
This column, it is worn, or else the writing has been chopped off, you could say. And you don't see any writing on this one on the Egyptian side. But Ron found the one in 1985 on the Saudi side, and it said in Hebrew, water, Mizraim, which means Egypt, Pharaoh, death, Moses. And so Solomon, and so he decided, Solomon must have put these up because his seaport is just 50 miles to the north. Solomon knew full well where the Red Sea crossing location was. It was right in his neighborhood. And so Ron thought that he put these columns up to mark the spot.
Well, the very fact that they're matching, you wouldn't need any inscription on both.
Right, and the Saudi one has been cut down and removed, which is sad, but this one is still there. So from the pillar, you can see how it relates to the crossing location. The south end of the beach here is where the waters opened up for the children of Israel, one of God's amazing miracles.
Right where the water's reflecting.
That's right.
The sun.
Yes. So we're driving down to the water.
Now, I'm going to stop you right here. We're going to stop and save this special thing for another time. What we teased up here, that not all is sand.
That's right.
We're going to open up our next episode here on Shabbat Night Live with Kevin. Something very special on this beach that all but proves without a doubt that Yehovah protected his people from the Egyptians. And before next week, before you come back and join us, maybe you can look that up and see what he did at that beach that would cause the sand to turn into something other than sand. I'm going
That's
to
right.
just leave it at that.
Sounds great. Yes, we'll take a look at it.
All right, Kevin, will you join us again next week?
Well, I'll do it, yes.
All right, great. All right, well, thank you for joining us this week on Shabbat Night Live, and join us next week for the concluding concluding part of the story of the Red Sea Crossing. We have more episodes to come with Kevin Fisher. Join us again. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom, Torah fans. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Tap the subscription button and the bell icon. And I promise to update weekly with in-depth biblical research. Be sure to download the new michaelrood.tv app for both mobile and home devices for even more commercial-free content.